In 2 weeks, over 1 million people across Great Britain will gather together for a shared meal. It will be one of the biggest common meals ever celebrated in history. They're calling it the Coronation Big Lunch, and it's put on in celebration of the coronation of King Charles III. It will be one of the biggest common meals, but it won't be the fanciest. It's a more down-home kind of affair. It's hard to say what the fanciest meal ever hosted was, but possibly it was a meal that took place on October 5th, 1600 in Florence, Italy. The event was a banquet celebrating the marriage of Marie de' Medici from the Medici banking family when she married King Henri IV, King of France. The dining room was decorated with sculptures carved from pillars of sugar, and chefs created an astounding 50 courses for that meal. There was salad. There was charcuterie that was shaped like giant castles. There were cold pies. There were hot meat pies. There was stuffed roasted pig. There were veal tarts, almond sponge cake, donuts, milk, honey, peaches poached in wine, and on and on and on. Some food historians think that a special dish created just for that banquet, which was a fruit sherbet mixed with milk, is the precursor of Italian gelato. Why do people go to such great lengths to make common meals? Well, there are probably many reasons. The Medici family wanted to show off their vast wealth. But the British royal family has this stated reason for the coronation big lunch. They said the reason why they want people to gather is so that they can share together the things we have in common. And that is a great reason to have a meal together. Sharing the things that we have in common. It's one of the reasons why we as Christian people gather together for a meal when we come together on Sundays. The meal that we share together on Sundays is a meal centered upon a shared hope. The act of communal eating reveals that we are not independent, autonomous beings. I doubt that many of you grow, forage, and hunt 100% of the food that you eat. I know that I don't. If all of our grocery stores went out of business, I would very generously give myself about a week and a half to live. I depend on thousands of people to grow the food I eat, to harvest it, to transport it, to stock the shelves, to sell it to me, to prepare it in a restaurant, to serve it. Our lives are in other people's hands. And every time we eat, we're reminded of that. In Luke's gospel this morning, the disciples encounter Jesus as they're walking from one city to another. But the weird thing is they don't recognize him. They think he's some random stranger that just happened to be on the same road. And so they, talk to one another about the news, as people do with random strangers. But they apparently had a good time together, because when they reach their destination, they invite Jesus to have dinner. and they still don't have any idea who he is. Well, Jesus joins them, and as soon as they start eating, they realize who he is. In that moment of shared dependence that was made visible through that meal, the disciples discerned Christ's presence. Luke is telling us that in moments when we realize that we need other people, those are the moments when Christ is most vivid. The disciples took Jesus in when they thought that he was a stranger. They cared for him. They shared a meal with him. And then Jesus disappeared. I think that in this, Luke is telling us that this kind of work is the work that you and I are supposed to continue. Caring for one another, particularly the people who we think of as strangers. That is the foundation of the life that God has called us to. And that kind of vision gives me hope. It's the vision of hope that was on display within this cathedral community this weekend as we had our Serve Our City Day yesterday. Cathedral members met downstairs in our basement, and they packed bags full of hygiene supplies so that 8,000 people a year can have soap, toothpaste, shampoo, and feminine hygiene products. Cathedral members made sandwiches that the Hope Center will distribute to 350 hungry people. And folks staffed the community closet, which is a partner ministry with Central Christian Church, where people can come in and shop for clothing free of charge. There was one man who showed up yesterday morning, and his brother had died the day before, and he was able to get clothing to wear to the funeral. Tomorrow, many people in the cathedral, part of our build group, are going to gather with 26 other faith communities in the city and advocate for affordable housing, for violence reduction programs, and to make transportation available so people can get to their mental health appointments. If you'd like more information about joining that group, there's some information in your bulletin this morning. But we are a people of hope who say that the world can be different. We can build a society that is founded on this love that Jesus modeled for us. When we share communion, we're not just munching on a stale cracker. We are participating in a common meal that unites us together in this hope. And we share some of the most fundamental things about our lives in common. We are confessing that we are dependent creatures, that we depend on God's love and care and the love and care of the people around us. And this meal gives us the courage and the hope that we need to enter into God's holy calling to care for this world. Well, this morning, God's inviting each one of you to participate in this common meal, to build your hope that will help propel you forward in living a life of care and love.